It's time for our call-in conversation. Our question in this half hour, call us live, is how do you feel about a possible fall election? Here are the numbers once again. And if you've already got an opinion, call now, 204-780-0893. Or you can text us at 204-588-7355. So what prompted this conversation about a possible federal fall election? Well, it was prompted by the supply and confidence agreement between the NDP and the Liberals ending. That happened last week. And while the deal was in place, it ensured the survival of the Liberal minority government at the federal level. But NDP leader Jagmeet Singh tore it up last week. So could we be going to the polls? Well, that made it possible. Our guest this half hour to help us through the conversation, if you give us a call on the line, is Christopher Adams, who joins us via Zoom. Christopher is an Adjunct Professor of Political Studies, University of Manitoba, and author of Politics in Manitoba. Good afternoon.
Hi, Marcy. It's nice to be with you, and it's a change from the usual 7:15 in the morning interviews with you.
I know.
So I feel a little bit brighter right now than early morning.
Okay, well, you'll get no judgment from me because I think you're fabulous at all times of day. What did you think when Jagmeet Singh tore this up?
Well, I wasn't surprised. He's getting pressure from within his caucus. This agreement really hitched the party to the wagon of the Liberals. The Liberals are really sagging badly, as you know, Marcy. They're at around 25%, most of the polls are saying. The Conservatives are at 42%, so that's a huge gap. And the NDP are under 20%. But to hitch their wagon to Justin Trudeau and the Liberals right now is very precarious. The other thing, too, is that, remember, the NDP is a Labour party, is very connected to organized labor. And the Trudeau's Liberals had gone to binding arbitration to settle the rail strike. It wasn't a strike, it was a lockout. But organized unions did not want to see binding arbitration. They wanted to be able to go to strike if need be, or to have negotiations. And so the NDP was facing pressures from within their members as well as within their caucus to see whether they should be continuing with this agreement. So it shouldn't have been a surprise to most people that this had happened.
So I just want to call up the numbers again if people want to join the political conversation. It's 204-780-0893, 780-0893, and you can text us 588-7355. We do have some Facebook comments that have come in on this, so let's chew on this one. Randy Bolt wrote in to CBC Christopher, and he said, yes, very much. It's time to go to the polls. Randy writes, we need a more fiscally responsible government with better ideas on immigration and housing. We need a government that attracts investment, not pushes it away. Our standard of living has fallen by at least 10% in the last 9 years. And I don't know, I can't verify where he's pulling that stat from, but he writes, housing prices have more than doubled. And in many places, that's factually correct. More of the same is not the answer. Are we in a moment federally in this country, do you think, that we could be in a moment of change? Or is this more about people not liking Justin Trudeau and basing it on, leadership change, or is it party change?
Well, it could be both. I would say that canceling this agreement, that doesn't necessarily mean we go to the polls, right? So this is a minority government. We've had many minority governments that have operated as minorities, and it's just motion by motion. Then they do some sort of agreement with the different parties. We could have the Bloc Québécois supporting the Liberals on different motions, and the NDP on the occasional motion as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we go to the polls. That this could last for another year of this minority government.
Line 2 here, we've got Brenda on the line who's ready to go. Hi, Brenda. There she is. Hi, Brenda. You
Hello?
with us? Hi, Brenda. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Winnipeg.
Okay, so are you willing to share with us how you vote? You don't have to.
I voted just about every which way.
Okay.
I tend to vote. I voted for Wapakonoo in Manitoba.
Got it.
I voted Liberal in the last 2 elections. But I have voted Conservative and NDP and the whole spectrum.
I love voters like you, because that means that they have to win your vote, right? That really means
That's true.
So as a Manitoban, what do you care about? And if there were an election that was prompted and called, would you be ready to go to the polls right now?
I would be ready. I always vote, but I don't want to see an election until next year.
Why?
Well, I think there's a lot of things in play here. The main thing is I think that Pierre Poilievre has sold Canadians a bill of goods that is, number one, not honest. And I just see way too much propaganda flying around and very little fact. And I find that very disturbing. And I think that the Liberal government needs another year for the bloom to come off the rose with Poilievre. I think given some time and the way the election goes in the United States might have a big impact on that.
Stay on the line and hold that thought, because this is a call-in conversation, so let's have a conversation. What do you think of that, Christopher? What do you think? I kind of was going to ask this anyway, so Brenda did it for me. What do you think of the idea that some people here might actually be thinking about the United States and the positioning of the different parties, and does that relate to what we're seeing with the Conservatives and the Liberals? Is it a fair comparison?
Well, over the past many decades, Canadians have had a strong affinity to the Democratic Party. When a number of polls are done every U.S. election, companies like Leger have asked Canadians, who would you vote for if you're in the United States? So there is an affinity to the Democratic Party, and probably even more so with kind of like the bump in polls for Kamala Harris that we're seeing in the United States. There's kind of an excitement over that. So I would say that there will be some sort of emotional impact on Canadians, but I don't think it would affect their vote. If we went to an election, I don't think it would affect their vote. And we're seeing this in the polls right now. Pierre Poilievre is at about 42% in the national polls, Trudeau at 25%, the NDP at under 20%. So this surge of support for Kamala Harris that people north of the border or south of the border may be feeling, that's not showing up in the national polls. But the other thing, Marcy, I want to comment on Brenda's comment about voting for different parties. In Manitoba, we often see people voting for the NDP. At the federal level, at least in Winnipeg, they often vote for the Liberals, and so there is that jump around the different parties, provincially to federally, and but contrary to that, for Conservatives, they tend to stick to the Conservative Party provincially and the Conservatives federally. So that's just a side comment.
Can I interject something?
Yeah, interject. Then we're going to another caller. But please, Brenda.
Okay,
yep.
If you add up what the Liberals get in the polls and what the NDP gets in the polls, that's more than the Conservatives are getting in the polls. And this is a Canadian tragedy: is that this three-party system is crippling the center left. And I would like to see that change. I think that if Singh had done anything, he should have gotten into a real coalition and gone the distance for Canada.
I'll let you battle that out, Brenda, with Jagmeet Singh, who firmly believes that he's the alternative and he's going to make a new orange wave this year. So we'll have to see. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Let's open up the phone line here. We're going to Warren, who is with us next. And Warren says he doesn't want Trudeau around anymore. Hi, Warren.
Hi.
Where are you calling from?
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Okay, so give me the context here. You vote Liberal, you don't want Trudeau around anymore, or you never voted Liberal and you never liked the guy?
Believe it or not, I voted Trudeau in, but that was a long time ago, and he's done nothing to substantiate the position he serves.
Okay, I'm going to interject here because I can hear your radio in the back. Can you run to it and turn it off?
I sure can.
All right. So when Warren turns that off, he'll be able to get into this conversation. We'll be able to hear him a little more clearly. A reminder while he's doing that, call us at 204-780-0893. That's how to get in on the conversation, Manitoba. 204-780-0893. Or text 204-588-7355. And have we talked enough to get you back there, Warren?
Yes, you have.
Okay, so but you said, believe it or not, you voted him in. So you liked him before and you feel he's let you down where?
Well, it was a case of when Harper was in, I don't like an autocratic system. I don't like an autocratic prime minister who has his finger in the pie. And I thought, well, this is a chance for someone new to demonstrate that he can lead the country. And he's young and he had give him a chance. Well, the chance is over.
So why is I think what was his, was he Sunny Days, Chris? He was Sunny Days, Trudeau,
It was
right?
Sunny Days when he started off.
Okay, I didn't have to ask Chris because you know this, Warren. So when did the Sunny Days turn cloudy for you? Like, what did he not do that you wanted him to do?
Well, the first time he lost integrity on the Lavalin affair, and he was pro-feminist, and Raybould was a smarter person than he was. As a matter of fact, Raybould should have been the prime minister, not Trudeau.
So Jody Wilson-Raybould and that whole affair also affected your view of the prime minister?
It did. And from that, it just went downhill quickly. He has no integrity. He has no conscience for the people of Canada. He shut off the most detrimental economic basis in Canada, That's our fuel supply.
So who would you vote for if you did go to the polls tomorrow? Would you go to the Liberals if they had a different leader, or what are you thinking right now? Would you be going to another party?
I would be going to another party, and that leads me in a kind of a quandary, because it's like the show Dumb and Dumber. Who's worse?
I'm gonna let you get away with that. I would never get away with that, but but I'm gonna back it up too, because Kev Roberts wrote in. You'll like this, I think. Warren, another listener, wrote, "I once saw a bumper sticker. Politicians are like diapers. They both need changing, often for the same reason." So not happy with the performance either. I know we're being a little bit cheeky here, but in all seriousness, Chris, I mean, how worried do the Liberals have to be that if there were an election called, that they wouldn't have the support if they continue with Justin Trudeau as leader?
Well, the projections that I saw on 338.ca really had that they'd be down less than 100 seats, probably in the mid-70s, out of a 338-seat House of Commons. So they would be in real trouble if they went to an election right now. But the other thing Warren was commenting about, 2015, he supported Justin Trudeau, and much of Winnipeg went red, with the exception of Elmwood-Transcona, which is in a by-election right now. But the whole city went red, and he did say sunny ways, and he was harkening back to Wilfrid Laurier in the late 1800s when he used that term. But he's been in for 9 years, which is a long time for things to accumulate for us to take grievances with the government. And in many ways, Justin Trudeau has had many missteps over the 9 years.
Let's get more listeners on the air, because we want to hear from as many people as we can. So thanks, Warren, for calling and for weighing in. Tammy is with us now. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Where are you calling from?
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Okay, so we're asking people how they voted. You don't have to tell us.
I'd rather not say, but I did not vote for the current party.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what's prompted your call today, and how you would feel if there were to be an election called right now.
I would be okay with an election being called. How do I feel? I feel like our parliamentary system in whole is antiquated. I believe that it would be wonderful if it could be changed in some way. I don't feel like there's anyone for quite some time, if ever, has truly worked for the best interest of Canadians. I think a lot of people go into office, they may have good intentions or not at all, but somehow it's lost. I believe our country could be so strong in the global market, and we're just not.
Who's the last leader you trusted? Oh, look at that pause, Christopher. Look at that pause. That was one of my questions, actually. I'm kind of glad you raised this, Tammy, because this is also about trust in the system. It's about trust in leaders. How might you change the system to better reflect you and what you care about here in Manitoba and in Winnipeg, where you live?
Well, I think seat representation has to be better for each province to have their own federal voice heard. I believe right now the way that Canada is done on this is that there's only a few provinces that really make the vote. I also I would like more accountability to the people. If businesses ran the way that governments run, nobody would be able to keep their doors open.
That representation piece was a broken promise from Trudeau, I believe. Is that right, Christopher?
Electoral reform, you mean?
Yeah.
To change the first past. Yes, that was a promise. He said 2015 would be the last election running under those rules. And there are many people disappointed that reform was not put in place.
What Tammy's raising here, though, if I may, Tammy, is I think that you're not unlike a lot of voters where people are just disengaged. How big of a worry is that, and which party has to be most worried about that if there were an election called, or even next year when we're guaranteed to have a federal election called?
I just don't trust any of it, honestly. Yeah. Like, you could call an election. What's going to be the outcome? Well, I guess it depends on who's placed in power, not voted in.
Would you still go vote?
I would. Yeah. I would go vote because there's still a part of me that really wants to believe that we have a say. I just don't think we do. And I still think it doesn't matter how we vote. No one is going to work for Canadians.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
You've given us lots to talk about
discussion here. Yeah. I hope I've raised just people to think a little bit and it's okay to question. It's okay to question. And we need better leadership, and we need our leaders to be accountable to the people.
Christopher, this is a sentiment that we do hear from a lot of people. Which parties do have the most to lose if Canadians are disengaged, whether the election's this fall or next year?
Well, I would say that, the Conservatives are very good at getting their people out to the voting stations. So it's get out the vote. They're very good for identifying voters and where they might be voting and then getting them to the voting booth. So the Conservatives usually benefit by low turnouts. And also, Marcy, because the people who vote Conservative tend to skew to the older age categories and homeowners, so they tend to have a stronger affinity to what the Conservatives are talking about compared to the NDP or the Liberals. The 2015 election had a huge turnout compared to the prior and after elections, in part because Justin Trudeau fired up people. He got many First Nations who came out to vote. A lot of young people came out and vote. But after time, that trust and enthusiasm dissipated. So I would say the Conservatives benefit by low turnouts, and we have seen when we think about the previous caller talking about trust in politicians, we have seen a gradual decline with most elections of turnout, which means people are less interested, not attuned to the topics, and really don't like their politicians.
I want to ask you about the possibility of Chrystia Freeland as leader and how realistic an orange wave could be in a moment. But we've got some texts here. Reminder, we still have time for calls. It's 7 minutes to 1 o'clock here on Radio Noon. So call us if you're yelling at your radio. Come talk to us. 204-780-0893 if you want to weigh in. 204. How do you feel about a possible fall election, and what are your thoughts on politics federally right now overall? So give us a call. Here's a text, Chris. Someone said, if Trudeau were kicked out in an election, do I lose my dental? And signed the downtown kid. That question's coming, of course, because the agreement that they had with the NDP had that, agreement that would dental coverage would come through. That bill's already passed, though, right? So that is not something that can be changed.
Well, there are things. I mean, Parliament's supreme. So if you have the vote in Parliament, you can remove things. And but the more you have a major program in place, the harder it is to remove. For instance, public insurance in Manitoba was highly contentious when Ed Schreier brought it in. The Conservatives were very much against it, but they didn't dismantle it when they came in the mid-'70s and into power. The same thing with public health care. Federally brought in by Lester Pearson. It wasn't dismantled when the government changed years later. So the more things are put into place, I would say pharmacare would be really in doubt. Any new, the NDPs, that they got the Liberals to bring in a pharmacare program, that would be greatly in jeopardy, I would say.
Another call here, and a reminder, we'll probably have time for one more call if you call quick. So it's 204-780-0893. That's the live line. We have Paula on the line. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
You calling from Winnipeg, or are you somewhere elsewhere in the province?
I'm in Winnipeg.
Thanks for calling. So tell me what prompted you to call in. I understand that you have a position on how you feel about Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservatives.
Yeah, I think of the three major political leaders nationally. I think Trudeau's the only one that can actually do the job. Now, whether he's doing it good or bad, like Pierre Poilievre lies through his teeth. He's very divisive. He is dividing the country. A federal leader has to bring people together. Pierre Poilievre isn't doing that. Trudeau has tried and has done some. And Jagmeet Singh is starting to sound a lot like Poilievre. We need a federal leader that can bring the country together, not just, keep themselves, not just be in it for themselves.
We'll leave it there. We're going to get one more voice on the air here, and then we're going to chew a little bit to the end of the show on what you've brought forward here, questioning the leaders and who is ready to lead. Thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you.
So I can't fact check everything on Pierre Poilievre. I just want to say here, obviously, about whether what he has lied about or not lied about. But obviously, there's been a couple people that have called us here, Chris, and talk about having trust issues. How do you think that he is leading this party? He's got overwhelming support right now in the polls, but is this he's leading a different Conservative party than maybe some Canadians who maybe back in the day voted Conservative would view? Where is he now, would you say, in terms of how would you describe Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party?
Well, he's moved away from some of his outrageous statements when he was running for leader. For instance, this business about cryptocurrency, things like that, and removing the Bank of Canada, the governor, those sorts of things he seems to have retreated from. And so but that's quite common when you run for the leadership of a party, you play to your members. And then when you run to win an election, you play more to the center. He has moved a little more to the center, but not as much as many people would like to see. But he certainly is not a red Tory or someone like Brian Mulroney, or in Manitoba, a Duff Roblin or a Gary Filmon. But he certainly has moved towards even more of a neoconservative position compared to Aaron O'Toole, who was his predecessor as the leader.
Do you have a sense that you talked about some of the more outrageous, I think, as you put it, that was your language, statements he might have made earlier on, but before he's made this move more to the center. Is that your sensibility maybe around why people are calling him with trust issues, like remembering what he said before and feeling like he's divisive or extreme, perhaps?
I would say it's his style. Like, he's a very strong, biting debater, and we saw that during the WE scandal when Justin was facing the WE scandal, and Pierre Poilievre, as an opposition member, was really hitting hard, and he's doing the same as a leader. And he's also got a strategy with his advertising and messaging, very, very different than his predecessors. So much of it's style, and a very attacking type of style, rather than some of his predecessors' style. Great
conversation. It won't be the last one that we have, everyone, but I know I got a minute left in the show here. So, Chris, I'm going to have to leave my additional questions. I want to thank the listeners for calling in. Thank you so much for helping us through this.
Glad to be with you, Marcy.
That has been Christopher Adams on Zoom, Adjunct Professor of Political Studies, University of Manitoba, author of Politics in Manitoba. That wraps our call-in conversation. Remember, though, you can reach us anytime at CBC. Leave us a message, 788-3797, if you didn't get in on today's conversation.